welcome back. Here we are on Saturday, April 23rd, or the 23rd way that one can get started in real estate investing. Now, this is a little, shall we call, subset of the commercial space. And this was actually one area that I myself really kind of downed and really didn't see any point to it. And I think I looked at it more of that, well, I don't use this, so therefore, why am I going to invest in it? And, looking back, that was really kind of a limiting belief on my part. So what we're going to talk today is a little subsection in the commercial space, and that is self-storage. Now, like I said, I personally don't use self-storage. I don't have a, garage rented or storage unit rented or anything along those lines. However, it's estimated about 1 in 8 people currently do use self-storage, and I think it was 1 in 4 will use it at some point in their lifetime. And this is actually kind of I don't want to say a fast growing segment, but it's really been taken off, and a lot of industrial players have been starting to get into this marketplace and buying more mom and pop shops that are kind of back to our video of forced equity. Maybe an industrial player is buying a mom and pop shop where maybe it wasn't, properly managed. Maybe rents were below market value. Maybe it was only at 50% occupancy, and the mom and pop that owned it, they didn't care. They were still getting income from it. Now, as you can probably imagine from self-storage, it's maybe not as hands-off as we talked about with the land flipping options, but typically you're just storing stuff. You're not storing people. So you don't need to worry about as many regulations. You don't need carbon monoxide detectors and multiple exits for people to escape, because it's really just storing stuff. Now, when it comes to self-storage, if you've caught on my podcast, my interview with Paul Moore, or read his book, Storing Up Profits, he talks about the 4Ds when it comes to self-storage unit. The first one, a little morbid here, but the first one is death. Now, there's not so morbid with this, but, obviously all of us are going to die at some point. And if you think about it, maybe there's an elderly couple that passes away, or, one of the people passes away and the other one moves into an assisted living home. Or maybe it's an elderly man that's been widowed for a number of years, and, he just passes away suddenly, and all of a sudden the kids have to worry about, what to do with all their stuff. And maybe there's some stuff that has sentimental value. Maybe there's some stuff that need to go through at a later time, sort out, what's the junk, what is maybe valuable, what are some mementos that maybe the kids or grandkids maybe want. Now, typically at death, everyone's going to have a house probably, or someplace they're going to be living in. Maybe it's even an apartment for rent. And obviously, median rent I know is over $1,000 here nationwide, but even if it's $750 a month for rent, or $1,000, maybe it's $2,000 a month for rent, or the mortgage payment factored in with the insurance and the property taxes. Well, since the primary owners maybe passed away, the quickest thing that maybe the descendants or children or grandchildren can do is basically take all the stuff that's in the house, move it to a self-storage facility, and then sell the house. Now, if we move all the stuff to the self-storage and maybe get to it at a later point, well, depending on the size of the unit for the self-storage, might be talking just a couple $100, or, depending on the size, maybe under $100 a month just for storing this stuff. And if we're looking at, needing to sell the house to, maybe pay off some debts, or maybe, funeral expenses, maybe they didn't have life insurance, whatever the case may be, if we need to quickly get all the stuff out in order, maybe do a fire sale of the house, just get it on the market, get it sold as fast as we can. Well, whether it's a rent, whether it's the insurance and taxes, mortgage payment, if we're looking at $1,000 or more here, but just a couple of $100 for a storage unit, right there is just a cost savings that can immediately be brought upon the descendants of the person that passed away. And just by moving the stuff, obviously there's a death that's occurred, and have the overall cost savings and kind of out of sight, out of mind, and get to it at a later time. The second D, maybe not as morbid, but kind of an unfortunate fact of life, is divorce. Now, there's been many statistics thrown out as far as how many marriages result in divorce, but, at the end of the day, it happens. And with any divorce, you have one household, whether they're renting an apartment or have a house or joint title in a house. And now instead of one household, now you have two households. Or maybe, the one spouse that's moving on or getting remarried or whatever the case may be, maybe they're moving out of town and maybe they, I don't know, have a smaller apartment complex. Maybe they just have a one bed, one bath studio. They don't have the room for all their stuff that they had previously in their joint house. So again, whether the husband and the wife, they're going through a divorce and they move out, move to an apartment, move out of state, whatever the case may be, and they need a place to store stuff because they either can't find an apartment or a house to store all their stuff, or just obviously with dropping to one income as they're splitting up and dividing the assets, they just need a place to store stuff. So that's the second D. Divorce leads to, unfortunately, breakups of families, breakups of households, splitting of the joint house into multiple living areas. And with that, there might not be the storage space within the new apartment, new house, whatever the case may be. So with a divorce, obviously you got stuff to move. That's where self-storage comes in. All right, now we'll get rid of the morbid things here, as we've already covered two of the D's that come into play with self-storage. And if this is already piquing your interest a little bit, highly recommend Paul Moore's book, Storing Up Profits. I met Paul at the Summit on Sand in Belize in 2022. Really nice guy, actually looking to invest with him shortly. Fortunately, at the time of this recording, he only takes accredited investors, and I'm slowly getting there, but I'm not unaccredited investor at this point. But in any case, Paul Moore has numerous resources on his website that I'll have in the show links. Also highly recommend his book, Storing Up Profits. You can go to the show links, the links on this YouTube video. Go to my Amazon store. If you go to my podcast guest books, you'll see Paul Moore's book listed in there. So with this, we have the final two Ds when it comes to self-storage. Dislocation. Now, this can actually mean a number of things, and we actually saw this in play with the pandemic 2 years ago. But even here in Marshall, there was a lot of students that just almost like flipping a switch overnight. Hey, classes are moving online. How many of you were impacted with the shift from having students, whether they're K through 12 or college, whether they were in the classroom, now everything's remote or online learning? Well, a number of college students, they had to move back home. And, maybe they still had their apartment, maybe they still had their place, or, maybe at the end of the day, they just had a lot of their stuff. And it's like, well, okay, I'm moving back home. I'm not going to be living on campus, but I don't want to be dragging a trailer all the way down here and then packing it up and then driving 4 or 5 hours away, maybe even across the country, unpacking all that. And at the time we thought, well, this pandemic will be over soon. We'll just be coming back in the fall. Obviously that's stretched out a year or two. So this kind of comes into play with dislocation. So is there a portion, or is there a period of time, shall we say, that for whatever reason, someone just basically is dislocated from one area to another? Is it a job change? Is it leaving school early? Is it a, traveling nurses? You probably heard about that from time to time, where the nurse, the doctor just travel to wherever they needed. Maybe they'll spend a month here in Minnesota. Maybe they're going to then go to Alaska for 2 months. Maybe they have a residency. They go somewhere for a 6-month contract. They're constantly moving around. Well, kind of goes back to dislocation. If you're constantly moving, are you really going to, want to rent a U-Haul truck or get a trailer, constantly pack up your stuff and move it from every single time that you're moving? Maybe just for simplicity reasons, have some clothes, your necessities, your laptop, TV, some of the bare bones stuff that you might travel with, and maybe some of your, I don't know, furniture or heirlooms or mementos or books or whatever the case may be. We can just store that in a storage locker, and maybe it's a job move, maybe it's for school, whatever the case may be. But as you're going around the country, place to place, you can just keep your stuff stored in one area. Again, maybe $100, maybe a couple $100 a month, and it certainly saves a lot of time, money, and headaches with having to pack all that and then move it from city to city, town to town as you go about, whether it's for school or an internship or job or whatever the case may be. So that's the third D when it comes to self-storage. And then finally, the big thing that has really been picking up, you may or may not know this, but statistically, about 10,000 baby boomers every single day here in the United States are turning 65. Now, that doesn't mean that they turn 65 and they're automatically retiring, but many times as people retire, or maybe as the kids move out, again, kind of back to divorce, maybe someone is widowed, whatever the case may be, life happens. So maybe there was a family back in the day that had this really big house, maybe a 4-bed, I don't know, 3-bath even. Then they grew up, had a family of 4, family of 5, whatever the case may be. Time goes on, the kids move out. Then they retire. They don't need to travel into town to, go to the job 5 days a week, whatever the case may be. And maybe they decide, we retire now. We're going to go down to Florida. We're going to go down to Arizona or Texas or someplace warm. So with that, then comes downsizing, where the couple or the individual realize, hey, we don't need this $2,000-$3,000 square foot place. We don't need 4 beds, 3 baths anymore, since it's just the two of us, or maybe the one of us. Maybe we can sell our home, with the huge appreciation we've had. Maybe we can sell the home. We can downsize, maybe to a 2-bed, 1-bath condo, townhome, assisted living facility, whatever the case may be. And maybe we banked, a couple $100,000 worth of profit from the sale of a primary home. We've downsized because we don't need as much space, but well, gosh, we really can't get rid of that family heirloom. We can't, get rid of that furniture, that chair, little Mikey, we rocked him to sleep years and years ago when he was a baby. Gosh, I just can't get myself to get rid of that. And, all these photo albums, all these home videos, whatever the case may be, I just can't, put myself through getting rid of that or throwing that all away. Well, again, I don't need that much space to live in, or myself and my partner, whatever your living situation is. Again, we're downsizing to an apartment, a condo, a townhome that is more conducive to our needs. But, does it really pay to have a couple extra bedrooms just to store extra stuff? So if we're looking at downsizing, obviously people will probably still have garage sales and maybe put stuff on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. But when it comes to downsizing, again, just from a cost perspective, if retired elderly couple can sell their long-time home, they've had 4 beds, 3 bathrooms, downsize to a 2-bed, 1-bath condo, put some extra money in the bank, and maybe just for a couple $100 a month, and they can just move all their stuff into storage. And maybe as time allows, they'll go through it. Maybe the kids, when they come visit for the holidays, they can say, hey, you want to go check out the storage locker, see if there's any pictures or home videos or any mementos you want. Take whatever you want and take it home. Otherwise, end of the year, we're just throwing the rest out. So that's the 4th D when it comes to self-storage. Again, a review, we have death, divorce, dislocation, and downsizing. Because of those 4 Ds, this is why self-storage has really become more popular as a place to store stuff. And if you want to get involved in this little subset in the commercial space, obviously you can purchase a self-storage facility on your own. You could, build a brand new one if you like. Kind of back to the repurposing option we talked about earlier with the earlier video, maybe repurpose a retail space or warehouse space into a self-storage. Or back to my first couple of videos, publicly and privately traded REITs, one ticker symbol, PSA, public storage, is a national self-storage chain. You can actually invest in that, even buy one share or fractional shares and get the recurring revenue from the self-storage facility. Or you can even do syndications, like I mentioned with Paul Moore. Right now, it only takes accredited investors, but there are other self-storage syndications out there as well that might be a 506B that are open to non-accredited investors, that if you have some cash on hand, you might be able to invest in that. Or even through your retirement account, like I do, a specialized trust, you could possibly invest in a self-storage syndication and reap the benefits of it without being involved in the day-to-day operations. So with that, concludes our video today on the 23rd way to get started in real estate investing, which is self-storage. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and stay tuned for tomorrow with way number 24 to get started in real estate investing. Take care.